Hi, my name is Rita Alfaro. I'm the music librarian for Fort Worth Public Library, and you are tuning in to Off the Record, our Q&A session with our Amplify 817 artists. And today we have Frenchie's Blues Destroyers. Hi, guys.
How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Fine.
Thank you guys so much for doing with us today. You've got a lot of really big fans out there, including myself and our entire Fort Worth Library department doing this. So I want you guys to maybe introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about the band, how you guys formed, how long you've been around, all of that kind of stuff.
I'm Brother Pete.
And I'm Frenchie. And so we started this band a few years back. About what, 8 years?
Yeah, it's been 8 years, believe it or
Time
not.
flies by, I tell you. And I met Brother Pete in 2004 at a festival, music festival. He was playing with Jack Ingram, and I was playing with a guy named Wade Bowen. And we talked a little bit, and then we reconvened around 2007 when I started playing for Jack Ingram. And that's when we started playing together.
Yeah, I've been with Jack for 26 years.
Wow.
And I told Jack, I nudged him, I said, we need to get this guy in the band.
So that was how we started playing together. And then around 2009, 2010, I started writing songs. But I was just writing. Then I made a couple of demos in Nashville, and we were out on the road. And then Pete one day said, "Well, hey man, why don't you go sing your songs? Why don't we go and play some shows?" And I never sang live besides doing music, harmonies to songs, and I was a little
So in the background, sort of.
I was a little self-aware of my vocals, and I just didn't want to sing. And he said, "Well, let's just go play a show and see what happens." So I was like, "All right, let's do it." So I think it was Adair Saloon in Dallas.
Ironically enough, it was Adair's where I first played with Jack at Adair's, and so our first show ended up being at Adair's.
So we played the first show, and I was a little worried that my singing wasn't up to par, but it went well. Nobody threw beer bottles at us or at me, so I thought, "Oh, that was cool." And so we just started casually playing and playing and playing. So that was 2012. And I kept writing songs, and then next thing you know, we started making a couple of albums and gaining some momentum with local fans here in Fort Worth and the DFW area. And I was living in Nashville back then, but I ended up moving to Texas, and so we've never stopped. That's kind of how it happened for us.
Yeah, you guys are definitely a staple here in Fort Worth. I actually knew about you before I came to Fort Worth. A friend of mine who's a big blues fan in Japan, Tetsuya, shout out, I don't think he's going to be watching, but shout out to Tetsuya. He's a huge fan of y'all.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, and I was like, that's how I found out about you guys, so.
That's
outstanding.
Yeah, so you've got fans in Japan.
I love that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he's a musician himself, a blues guy too, so.
Very good.
Yeah. He always loved coming to Texas, and he would perform at South by all the time. I don't know if you guys have performed at South by before.
Oh, yeah.
We have.
So that might be where he saw y'all.
That's possible,
and so where have you guys, I'm sure you've performed all over. What are some of your favorite places that you've performed, whether it's festivals, concert venues, especially local stuff? If you want to give a shout out to our favorite local places here.
Oh, Magnolia Motor Lounge has been a staple for us. They really, as when we started playing, they were always here for us.
That was our second show.
Second show, that's right.
So without a doubt, those guys are our home away from home musically,
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I lived in Nashville, then I lived in Oklahoma, then I came down to Fort Worth. Then I decided to go to Austin because we didn't have a base in Austin. So he was here, and I thought, well, all right, well, I'm just going to go down with a single and figured, I'm just going to go down to Austin and work that scene, which I did. But every weekend I will come up to Fort Worth to play. So it didn't make much sense to be living down there. And what was interesting is, not to talk down on Austin, but it was really hard to get into any clubs. Whereas here in Fort Worth, people were calling us to come out and play. Yeah. So it just made more sense to be back here in Fort Worth and doing the scene. It really is, it feels that the city has been welcoming us and just allowed us to just play our shows, being supportive, which has helped us, making the music we're making now and getting better too, because there's no other way to get better than to play and play all the time.
I think Fort Worth has an inviting music scene, from the venues to the other artists. I think everybody's relatively easygoing and helpful. So it's kind of nice to be in this community of musicians and artists and venues.
And it's an interesting scene too, because we've played with country artists also as sideband, Jack and other people. So we played Billy Bob's numerous times. We love the place. Robert Gallagher, that works for Billy Bob's, is one of our dear friends, and so we had that aspect of Stockyards and also the country scene. But we are blues rock and roll band. But Fort Worth has that scene too going on. So we've had both worlds, going on over the years. The club scene, the rock and roll, blues, or whatever you call it. But that kind of music,
kind of Americana or rootsy music.
And I think a lot of people, that's something that we've discovered about Fort Worth, and that's the big part of Amplify 817 is we're trying to find all the niche groups in the area and all the niche genres, because I think a lot of people think like, oh, Fort Worth, Cowtown, country, and it's like, no, there's a lot more, and then there's that too, and of course it's fantastic what we do have, and the Americana and the folk music, but I mean, we've got blues, we've got rock and roll, we've got amazing rap and hip hop as well, so there's just so much really great stuff out there. Who are some of the artists that maybe you've collaborated with? You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but who are some of the favorites, maybe local, that you've done that you really enjoyed working with?
Pete?
Well, I was just thinking most recently, Phil Pritchett is a singer-songwriter and is a studio owner and engineer, and we've worked with him just recently on a recording that will be coming out very soon. And he's a great guy, and there's some great studios here that I've worked in, even as a sideman. There's some other bands around town that we really enjoy playing with. I've always enjoyed Cutthroat Finches. Those guys are great. Sean and all the guys in that band are a lot of fun.
And Tail Touch, that's in the band, that's did our last 2 albums, Love Is Blood and Praise. He's down in Dripping Springs now, but
great guitar player in his own right.
Oh yeah.
And the Poor Brothers, really like those guys. Always enjoy hanging out with those guys. Gosh, who else?
Well, there's also on the bigger picture here too. We worked over the years with musicians that are kind of legends. We both worked with Billy Joe Shaver, who sadly passed on in October, and so that has been hard just to think of, him being gone. But as far as writing songs, I remember discovering Billy Joe Shaver when I discovered country music. Because I wasn't born into country music. Discovered that more in my 20s, and Billy Joe Shaver's songwriting was very influential on me, even though I do blues. But when you get to that kind of craft, it doesn't matter the genre. What matters is the song, the structure, the storytelling. So that goes beyond genres, and Billy Joe Shaver was a big influence on me for that. And so Pete's played with him numerous times, and I got to play a few shows replacing his guitar player in a few shows, and we had some great stories with him.
Oh yeah.
And a Texas legend, so that's really cool too. Yeah.
So who are some of your other influences that you guys might have? Either some growing up, stuff that you might have gotten from your parents, or
just
things that you listen to and remember fondly?
We're pretty far and wide between the two of us.
Yeah. Well, I grew up... Well,
I was going to say, because of our age difference too, but golly, I'm a child of the 70s, so I grew up listening to 70s rock and roll radio. So all of that stuff that was played on FM rock radio, Electric Light Orchestra, Aerosmith, the Beatles, the Stones. I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan. Charlie Watts is my favorite drummer. I love the band, Levon Helm, that sort of thing. And then he comes along with a whole other set of influences that predate that and that go into the 80s, I guess, with Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, my dad is a big music collector. He used to have a couple thousand vinyls. Wow. And he was a Rolling Stones fan. That's his favorite band. But so he discovered all the musicians that wrote the songs that those bands covered. So he dug deep into the blues and where that music, the rock and roll music, came from. So by the time I was born, he had the Rolling Stones albums, but he also had all the Howlin' Wolves, the Muddy Waters, all the bands that made the Rolling Stones. So I had both worlds. I had the rock and roll thing, and then I had the blues thing. And then all the rhythm and blues like Stax Records, Sam and Dave, and Wilson Pickett, and all that stuff. So it was at my house. It was directed like hardcore rock and roll and blues, Chicago blues, and all that. Now, when I came to the States, because I'm originally from France, that's when I discovered country music and Waylon Jennings and people like that. And I found in their music something that I could relate from what I listened to growing up. And then there's also bands that I really appreciate, like band like Queens of the Stone Age, Guns N' Roses, and stuff like that. And so it's all mixed together. And the Beatles, big fan of the writing, Kinks, Animals.
A hodgepodge of genres.
It's just so much. But as I grow older, I tend to listen to the same bands over and over. We
got the Doors.
The Doors. I love the Doors. So yeah, I'll spend a week straight just listening to the Doors, and then I get tired of it and I switch to something else. But
that's the good thing about at least having a large collection of music. You can kind of switch off back and forth.
Yeah,
I do that with glam rock. I'm a big glam rock fan, but I'll listen to all of that, T-Rex, David Bowie a lot, and then I'll be like, oh, I need a break, and then I'll listen to metal and shoegaze for a while, and then I'll just go
and then
back.
you switch back. Yeah.
I think we have a little bit of a T-Rex thing in some of the stuff we do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we do, and but in the same day, I can listen, and now especially with digital platforms where you can just have a library of everything you like and stuff that you haven't heard that you can discover through playlists. So I can be listening to Queens of the Stone Age and then switch to Lightning Hopkins. It's just completely the opposite, but it doesn't matter. I love a good song, so the way I sing and play, the way we interact together when we're on stage doesn't matter as long as there's a melody and a hook.
Definitely.
And
so we're talking about streaming platforms, and Amplify 817 is a streaming platform that we do have with the library that features specifically local artists like yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your album Praise, maybe influences on that, or anything stand out about it that maybe you want to talk about?
Yes, so Praise, we recorded it at the end of 2019 and came out on Friday the 13th of this year, 2020.
So you can blame us.
So we played. We had a slew of shows to promote the album, and everything got shut down on the 15th, I believe. So we had the last show was on the 14th at Shipping and Receiving, I believe, here in town. Great place, great venue. So, and then now we're back, we're trying to get back on track, but we did some promotion, we let people know. Fort Worth Weekly did a really cool article about the album. So it's a collection of songs, got 10 songs on it, and it's all original songs besides one song. The first one is called Black Cat Moan, and that was written by Don Nix, who is a songwriter from Memphis. And Black Cat Moan was covered by Jeff Beck in the early 70s, and this is the very song that got me started to play guitar. Okay. So Pete had the idea, I said, in the studio, I said, why don't we record Black Cat Moan and do our own version of it? I said, all right. So we ended up recording that, and it's the only cover, but it's a very symbolic cover because it's what got me to start playing guitar. And it's all the songs got their own personal thing, to it. And the title track Praise was a song that I wrote for a friend of mine who passed away. Her name was Nikki Mitchell, and she worked for the Waylon Jennings company. And Waylon Jennings was a big influence, but also someone that was there in the beginning when I came to the States, that I got to meet, and he was kind of the reason why I ended up being able to stay in the States. So there was this big connection with my new family in America, of all these people, and so when she passed away, I was obviously very sad. Nikki was a dear friend of mine, and Praise pictured her being brave, facing death. And I thought, well, I hope that I'm as brave as she was, facing the inevitable. So that's the title track for it. People ask, are you recording Christian music now? Praise? And I said, no, but it's about really that aspect of things. Symbolic, you can find yourself in that song. So we're very excited about the album. It's a good little rock and roll album, and
Love the way it turned out. Tater Tatch produced it, and it sounds fantastic. And I love the selection of songs on it. One of my favorites is a song called Greta, which is a kind of a real stomping blues sludge kind of thing. I mean, you kind of feel like you'd be on a front porch in Mississippi. And
with big drums.
Yeah. And of course, Miss Me When I'm Gone, which we have performed a lot, and it's got a real nice jump beat to it, and I really dig the record a lot. I think it turned out great. We're very proud of it.
Yeah, we got a lot of songs. I mean, if we could just be in the studio for 6 months, we'd probably have like five albums.
Well, I'm glad you guys were able to release that album before everything shut down. I know we're all really big fans of it, and we're really glad you're able to perform with us today.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about that we didn't mention as we wrap up, or at least promote your social media, let everybody know where they can find out more info about you?
Is there anything you want to talk about, Pete? Not football.
No, we don't need to talk about football.
Well, we have a new song called 15 Years that's out, and we're going to figure out how to go about recording a new album, however many songs going to be on. But been writing a lot of songs during the quarantining, so it's just a matter of, if we're going to release 10 songs at a time, 10, 12 songs at a time, just to make sure, because we've got that many songs, to where figured out which songs are going to go together, album per album. So in the meantime, you can find out about us on our website is bluesdestroyers.com, and then you got a link to the albums, tour dates.
We're on Facebook and Instagram, and you can follow us on all of the streaming platforms, but the most important streaming platform to follow us on and to find us on is Amplify 817.
Of course.
And we want to say that we appreciate the opportunity to be selected to do that, and we appreciate the support that you guys have offered and given us to be able to do that. And Fort Worth is a great place to be a musician.
Absolutely. And we're glad that you're part of the platform. We're really glad to have you guys. And I guess one last question also, and I've been asking all the other musicians who've been doing this with us, but as for, a lot of people are surprised that the library is putting something out like this. Are you guys library users? And then if not, like, what's kind of surprised you about libraries now compared to maybe when you used to go to libraries?
I don't read a lot. I go through phases when I read. I mean, often it would be music related books. I had my Charles Bukowski period and my Hunter Thompson. I kind of like that kind of reading. But I got my library card.
Yay.
I'm gonna put it to use. And
having kids, I've taken my kids to the libraries. I live not even a mile from our local library, and I take my kids, and two of them are gone out of the house now, but one of them's still around, and we've enjoyed a lot of interesting days at the library, especially when they were littler. And but as for me, it's like I am one of those weirdos that likes to go buy books at garage sales and thrift stores.
Well, I'll tell you the reason why they also use libraries, because the library card is great. It's metal. Amplify 817 is metal, is shiny.
Those were our special edition cards, and we don't have those for everybody.
I'm sorry.
That's okay,
we get special treatment here, so.
but we've got a lot of other really great card designs. I'll throw that out there.
Well, I can't wait to see the new designs, because whoever designed the one that I have is really cool.
That was a popular one.
Oh, it's great.
People loved it too. The Panther, I think, is the most popular one. We have one with a big panther on it. It was like a tattoo artist designed it, I think, and
Panther City.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, even though I just said that I don't read a lot, but I do read often. I said, to people in town, just go check out library and start reading, especially musicians or aspiring musicians. Reading is always great for writing. No matter what you read, because it makes your brain work and see words and might inspire you some stories.
And you know that if a library is cool enough to push everything back and have a rock and roll band crank it up, it's got to be a cool library. So
yeah, that's.
Make sure you guys utilize the Fort Worth library.
That is the first and probably the only time we'll play in a public library.
Well, yes, after tonight,
without me getting kicked out.
Hopefully not the last.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, well, that would be great, of course.
They didn't tell us to shush.
No, that's right.
We don't shush anymore. So we're not shushing library anymore. So, well, thank you guys so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. And thank you guys for tuning in to Off the Record.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Hey, we are Frenchie's Blues Destroyers, and this next song is of the new record Praise. Check this out. It's called Blue Eyes Can Do You No Wrong.
Tell me, baby, what's your name? Tell me where you from. You should have them pretty eyes, but eyes can do you no wrong. Do you no wrong? If the sun don't come shining down on me, blue-eyed angel, take me away as far as I can see. Yeah, as far as I can see. You know I used to see this girl down in San Antonio. Then one day she walked away, I was left without a bone. Yeah, left without a bone. I've been rolling down this river, time slips away. Is the teardrops, is the rain that turn my soul away? Yeah, turn my soul away. Yep. I don't wanna die alone, my love is all I've got. Honey, we can be together till the end of time. Yeah, till the end of time. So tell me, baby, what's your name? Tell me where you from. You sure have the prettiest eyes, but eyes can do you no wrong.
But all right.
One, two, three. Miss me when I'm gone, I ain't gonna lie about it. Miss me when I'm gone, you turn your back and I walked away. Miss me when I'm gone, tears and trouble around again. Miss me when I'm gone, you better step in and try again. Everything in the world you see, don't care about us, don't care for me. No other man is out there and waiting. You're giving up, it's killing me. For better or worse, you leave me out here shaking. Truth be told, I'm going crazy. Every woman you love is tempting. Chose the one that I'm contemplating. Miss me when I'm gone, I ain't gonna lie about it. Miss me when I'm gone, you turn your back and I walked away. Miss me when when I'm gone. Tears and trouble around again. Miss me when I'm gone. You better step in and try again. You better step in and try again. You better step in and try again. You better step in and try again.